to you.
Showbiz and Leigh Drew on 97.7 FM.
My next guest grew up in the country. She had a pet store. No, she had a pet snake. She began reading at the age of 4. At 16, she won 3 computers for a school. She won some $10,000 worth of computers. She won a writing competition. These writings were to produce what would be a blossoming career for a would-be author. Her latest novel, Running from the Tiger, is compelling reading. I started reading it and I couldn't put it down. It's one of those books, it's not long, it's only about 160 pages, but from the beginning to the end, you can't stop. It's a story of domestic violence, courage, friendship and trust. And I'm talking about the author, Aleesah Darlison, and she's on the line right now. Aleesah, nice to talk to you.
Oh, nice to talk to you too. Thanks for having me on the radio.
Aleesah, first of all, congratulations. What a write. It's a great book.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It's a wonderful...
You used to write it?
Yeah, well, I couldn't put it down, and you took me on a journey a little bit like my life at times when I was a kid, and I'm 70 now, but I could go back and relate to a lot of those things this little 11-year-old girl was going through.
Yes. So I'm glad to hear that. I guess the story is set in country New South Wales, even though it's a fantasy... Well, it's not real names that I give to the places. It's based on where I grew up, and I guess that was kind of a tough place to grow up sometimes.
Yes. And did you have a tough upbringing like you talked about in the book?
Oh, a little bit. I guess in the country, we're all hard workers and farmers. And, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, so there were kids at school that were still getting the cane, the cuts,
Yes.
So that kind of form of discipline or teaching was still a part of our everyday life.
Well, this novel is about Ebony, and Ebony's a young 11-year-old girl. She is beaten and battered, of course, by the father. Tell us a bit about the story there, and you and I can share things from the book.
So Ebony, she's a great kid. She's got a few little sisters as well, but her parents don't have much money. And her dad, he can't really escape his own childhood. And, we see in real life the cycle of violence repeating generation after generation.
Yes.
And that's what happens for Ebony. So her dad's life repeats in her own life, and she tries to battle against that, but it's those feelings of inadequacy that she has herself and feeling that she kind of deserves what's happening to her.
Yeah, towards the end, I think it's, was it chapter 27 or something? We're talking there, we're taking this journey with her still, and her father's sort of just staring at her, and he's going back in his life, like you just said, and about what had happened with his father. And she sees some loveliness in his eyes at that stage, and they're looking one to the other, but she finds it very hard to connect emotionally with him.
He is a little bit distant to her. I think the problem with the dad is he's in denial of what he's doing, even though he's terribly affected. We're all affected as adults, even, we're 40, 50, 70, we're still affected by what happens to us as children. And I guess that's what I wanted to bring out into the story as well. Sometimes the father can't really help what he's doing. And especially if he's in denial, he's not recognising that and getting help for it. And that's the problem with kind of the older generations, I believe. They never talked about it, they never got help. And it's almost like post-traumatic stress syndrome, which is what they've got, the parents. And so Ebony loves her father. We all love our parents and we all want to be loved by them. But she also has these other feelings that are pulling her away from him. She wants to connect with him, but he just keeps pushing her away with, what he does to her and the rest of the family. I guess he makes them afraid.
Well, Aleesah, early on in the book, you introduce a friend to Ebony, and that friend is Tina. Now, she's been loath to talk to anyone about the family situation at home, and I think a lot of people like that who've suffered this way would identify with what you're saying here, because she just couldn't open up. But she got the confidence of this friend, and the friend got her confidence, and then they opened up to each other, didn't they?
That's right. And it is that sense that Ebony has that it's her fault, so she feels ashamed of it. She also feels different. She feels like she is the only one in the world who this could be happening to. And she's kind of made to feel a bit different by the other children at her school. Then, of course, we get Tina coming in, and she is like the shining light that has never been before in Ebony's life. The care, the attention, and just this mateship that Tina offers her and a different way of looking at the world. I guess it opens up her eyes a little bit as to what life and friendship really could be and what she should expect from parents herself.
As their friendship develops, I got a bit of a laugh myself when I saw that I think Tina, or a couple of boys showed interest in them, and Tina's saying to Ebony, now, what do you think? And she's saying, what do you think? Let's wait till tomorrow. We'll tell them tomorrow whether we want to go out with them. And it's just an amazing story. You've got a way with words, haven't you?
Oh, well, thank you. I guess like any author, I just sit down at my desk and do what Bryce Courtney always said we should do, apply the bum glue, and we just sit there for hours and hours reworking those words. Even if you're writing a picture book, it might be 500 words, but you can work for years on that to get it right.
Yeah, of course. Well, I just found this so easy to read. It just flowed beautifully, and you're almost in the room with me. And I read through it, and I couldn't put it down. I was saying to my producer today, I couldn't put it down. Once I started, I had to read it right through.
Wow, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that beautiful feedback.
I hope you sell so many of these. It's just wonderful. And there's so many messages in here for kids of today, and even teenagers, not just the kids, the teenagers, even in your 20s and 30s, who may have gone through things like this. And she couples up with this lovely girl, Tina. And, of course, as we go on, Tina and her parents, or her father, because she lost her mother, the father decides to move into New South Wales, and they're moving away from to Queensland, wasn't it? From where they were. So they're moving up north, and she's devastated by that.
Yes, I guess the book deals with a lot of issues, and there is domestic violence. There's also the light that friendship can give you, the light and support, and there's different levels of loss that we have to deal with as children. It's a kind of growing up and a young coming of age kind of story. And yes, I did write it to help other people as well. For kids that do go through things like this, so they've got some sort of compass that they can hang on to, and maybe, if there's a lesson in there, I try to weave it in quite lightly through the characters, but inadvertently, but just offering a little bit of help and support to others, and, maybe telling one person will make you feel better about what's happening to you and might actually solve your problem as well. And I guess standing up for yourself also.
And of course, the title
empowerment.
Yes, and the title, Running from the Tiger, of course, is the father. And
the symbolism there, yeah.
Yes, that's right. And, of course, he comes and prays on her many, many times. And, the poor kid, you just get to feel so sorry for her. And, once she confides in this girl, Tina, she starts to open up. And towards the end of the book, and I'm not going to spoil it here because I think people should read this, but towards the end, she says to her father, why do you do this? And she says to me, I'm not going to take it anymore. She puts her foot down as a little 11-year-old. And I thought, well, would 11-year-olds do that? And I think in today's society they probably would.
I think children can try to do it. And what you see and hear on the news, it's getting worse and worse for children.
Yeah.
I think we're better educated about it. So there are places, there are, special helplines children can go to. I think if kids feel safe and supported by teachers outside, the family or one family member, they might stand up and say that. Ebony does that in a situation where she knows there can be no sort of comeback at that point. It's quite a public situation. Every child's situation is different, and there are a lot of things that happen in real life to kids that are much worse than what happens to Ebony. And I kind of try to gloss over, I don't get too much into the detail of what happens to her, just for us to know. It's enough for us to know, I think, that, she does have a very hard time of it, and it is physical abuse.
And I think her mother's had physical abuse too by reading your book there. You have to read into that, but I'm sure that would have happened because she's downtrodden too by the father and the husband.
Yeah, sometimes that can be more of a mental or emotional thing rather than a physical thing.
Yes.
And we see that in a lot of domestic violence problems these days as well.
Aleesah, what was the inspiration behind the book?
I think I write from my childhood, but I also write for children of today. And really it started out with this friendship that I had with a young girl, who came into my life for a few years. And she had similarities to Tina. And I think it was really that crux, that friendship, and how friendship, one person can change your whole life and stay with you forever. Just like Ebony will never forget Tina, I will never forget my friend, who was called Tanya, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the two T's, there you are.
Yeah. There's similarities, but lots of differences as well. Often as authors, we write from experience, our own life. But we use our imagination and a bit of fiction and probably a bit of research to change things as well.
Now, you've written over 35 books. You've been a busy lady, haven't you?
I have. It keeps me out of trouble. I've published 35 books in the last 6 years.
That's huge.
So I just love writing, and I work with several different publishers depending on the style of story that I'm writing, and I just love it. Absolutely love it.
Well, in the intro, and you were just coming online when I did the intro, you probably didn't hear the intro, but I mentioned there that, as a young girl, you grew up in the country, you had a pet snake, amongst others, and you're reading from the age of 4, and you went into this competition and you won 3 computers for your school worth 10 grand. And from there, you won this writing competition. Was it from there that you got this inspiration to start, or the love to start writing?
I'd always loved books, always.
Had you?
And I used to get in trouble for reading books so much. I had my head in a book. I just loved story. And when I was 16, I won that competition. I told everyone, I want to be a writer. I want to be an author. I'm going to get published. And everyone, teachers, everyone, they said, it's too hard. You'll never get published. It's too competitive. You'll never make it. And so I went off to university, which I'd also always wanted to do, studied marketing. But in the background, I was just writing all the time. I didn't know what genre I wanted to write. I was writing romance novels. I was writing short stories. I was writing poetry. But there was just this urge to constantly write and express myself in words. And so it wasn't until about 10 years ago now, when I had a few kids at home and I wanted to be a full-time mum, but it wasn't, I needed some mental stimulation. Mm-hmm. So I started writing stories and submitting them. And I thought, this is it. I'm going to try and make it happen. So I started sending my work to publishers, to magazines, to all sorts of places, just to get that experience and exposure. And then I started getting book contracts. So I probably should have started at 16 when I said I was going to.
Yes.
But I got there in the end.
Well, you've done it well. And this novel is just marvellous. It really, really is. I can't rave enough about it. Running from the Tiger by my guest, Aleesah Darlison. And it's available right now. It's been published by Empowering Resources. How can we get a copy of this, please?
If you can go to the Empowering Resources website, you can order them, empoweringresources.com.au, and books are available there. If anyone wants to come to my website as well, aleesahdarlison.com. That's another avenue they might like to explore to find out more about me and my books.
Aleesah, what's coming up next?
Oh, I've got some picture books coming out, and I'm working on a novel, and hopefully that will get placed with a publisher this year. So I'm always working on something.
I'll be looking out for your next novel. I just love this. The reading was so easy, so whether you're a youngie or an oldie, you'll love it. Thanks, Aleesah. Nice to talk to you today. Thank you again, and I wish you well with the sales. This has only been out since, December, just before Christmas, wasn't it?
Yes. Yep.
How's it selling for
Very
you?
Very recent. Oh, good. It's going great.
That's
really
wonderful.
well.
Thanks for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye to you.
Okay, bye.